Hello. You see here Jules' first two albums, Pieces of You and Spirit. Um, you find these everywhere in secondhand stores, especially Pieces of You. That's kind of one of those things you'd see. If you visited two or three stores, you could kind of place a pretty good bet that you'd find at least one copy in just three random secondhand stores. And again, when I talk about secondhand stores, I mean secondhand charity shops, not specifically secondhand music shops. Um, so Jewel was a pretty huge star or musician, what do you want to call her, in the late 90s, early 2000s. Um, this album here, her first album, Pieces of You, was released in 1995. And it was kind of a slow burn. It didn't immediately become huge. It took a while. Um, and apparently, the first single, which was "Who Will Save Your Soul," that didn't get released for over a year. Um, which is, I don't actually know why. I'm sure if I read her Wikipedia or something, it would explain, but I would assume it was kind of label issues or whatever. Because uh, although, yeah, I'm not sure. Uh, it was a massive album. It went number one in my country. It went, I think, got to number three or four on the Billboard charts, and it sold I think, around 10 million copies around the world, around that. But if you look at the track listing, "Who Will Save Your Soul," so that was, like I said, the first single. "Foolish Games" was a single, and maybe the biggest song. Uh, well, actually, no, "You Were Meant for Me." I think that was the biggest song. "You Were Meant for Me." Um, but it's actually not a bad album. I had a pretty huge crush on Jewel when I was a teenager. She she's a very beautiful woman, but she was kind of not beautiful in the, like, she wasn't super done up pop star beautiful. She was quite having an organic look, and she's her teeth are kind of crooked, and I don't know, don't know what I'm trying to say. But she was, yeah. I I had a crush on her. I liked her, and I liked her music, which probably is something maybe didn't admit to back then. But then I remember I had a girlfriend when I was about 17 or 18, and she liked her as well. She had her CD, and that was before that. I just heard the songs on the radio or on TV, but that's when I listened to the album fully, and I thought, actually, there's some really nice songs on here. Um, now this is I think the second album cover. The original album cover was the one, and let's see if I can bring a picture up of this. That one, which was kind of didn't show her face fully. It was like her hair's covering it, and it's kind of within a colored shape, and it's not really. Whereas this one, she's in full view, kind of the main focus of the cover. Um, Liner notes, lyrics, some pictures of her. And see, what I mean is, like, so if we think about the similar time, so 95, 96, 97, that was kind of not quite, but it was getting towards that teen pop star era of Britney Spears and her ilk. And you'd say that she doesn't really fit with that exactly. She maybe fits more to the period in the mid 90s of artists, I think, of like Lisa Loeb and who else was in that? Tracy Bonham. She was more rock, but there was a few others as well. My mind's a bit blank at the moment. Who was that? Her face is in my mind, and I can't think of who I'm trying to say. And she was a country girl. She was born in Alaska, and she moved to LA to get a for her music career. Maybe she went to school there as well. I'm not sure, but so she had that kind of going for her as well, like kind of like I said, kind of more of a natural, organic. And she wrote her own music, I believe. I might be wrong. Maybe she didn't write everything, but I'm pretty sure she was the main writer for the majority of her own work, which again differed from that late 90s pop star period and tended more towards the mid 90s singer songwriter period. Um, the songs I like on this, I like Who Will Save Your Soul, and I like the one, which one is it? Near You Always. Yeah, that's a really lovely song. Um, Angel Standing By. Now, if you've ever seen the 1997 MTV Music Video Awards, she did a live performance. And it was just her on stage with an acoustic guitar. Didn't have a band backing her. And I remember she looked absolutely beautiful. And she said when she introduced it, you can find this on YouTube, but I remember watching it at the time in 1997. And she said, "Oh, I was supposed to do Foolish Games, but I'm going to do another song." And she did Angel Standing By, which is a really beautiful song. Very simple, but really vocally beautiful as well. And Amen, that really shows off her vocal ability. So yeah, it's as much as it's I would have it. I say it has a certain what's the word? When people see this, they think, "Oh, Jewel, that kind of music." It was everywhere, and maybe people kind of wouldn't give it a chance. But I think it's a good album. She's a good songwriter. The album after this, Spirit, this came out I think '98. Um, that one I didn't listen to as much, and I only bought this recently, secondhand. So both these secondhand, 50 cents. Um, excuse me. So at the time when this came out, I only heard the singles, and I think the singles were Hands. I heard a lot. Down So Long. What was the other one? And what's Jupiter? I think was one. We are loved beyond our ability to comprehend. Um, the song Hands, I like that, and I like it because of a few things. But relatively recently, I watched a live performance where she was doing an acoustic. I think it was one of those VH1 storytellers sets, and she was talking about the song and why she wrote it, and she explained the story of how she was living in Los Angeles. I think there's the famous story, she lived in her van for a period, and she didn't have a lot of money. And to cut a long story short, she was contemplating stealing things, stealing clothes, because she wanted them and she didn't have the money to buy them. And then as she was about to do that, she had the idea that her hands are God's hands. Something like that. No, maybe I might be putting two things together. Basically, she had a realization that she didn't want to do that, and maybe the song says it's God's hands, but the idea that we are the actions we do. I don't know. I really can't, I really can't explain this. I don't know. We are made in God's image, and so the actions we do um, are God's actions. Or you have the ability to be godlike, righteous. I don't know. Whatever. Uh, I don't think this album did as well as Pieces of You, which is not surprising because Pieces of You was massive. Um, I think it probably went on the charts, probably did as well, but it probably didn't sell as many around the world, maybe. She released a book of poetry, I remember, between Pieces of You and Spirit. We are not separate from Spirit, we are in it. So she's also got this kind of new age spirituality thing going at the same time. be the difference. That makes a difference. There's her hands. She's talking about her mother there. Lyrics. But I'd say that she, after this, whether intentionally or not, because I think what we often think, oh, they after this they flopped, their album stopped selling. But a lot of times, if you read and hear what they have to say about their own career, a lot of times it's almost intentional. They've imagine from she released this in '95. This was late '98. So for a good 5 or 6 years, she would have been working constantly, touring, performing, hustling these albums. And it's pretty non-stop. And then together with the fame of it, being recognized and your whole life has changed and probably got a bit of money. And some people don't want to keep doing that and maybe decide that they want to kind of take it back a gear. And maybe that's not true either. Maybe she did keep trying, and that it just there was that song "Standing Still." What? Oh, I think that was a later album. So I'm not saying that she completely disappeared off the face of the earth, but she is certainly not as famous today as she was in the late '90s, which is not surprising. And I didn't really listen to any of the music beyond these two, other than the ones that I would have heard by coincidence, just a daily life, like that song "Standing Still." Okay, so "Standing Still" here was from This Way, which is a 2001 album. Okay, so it's only 2 years or 3 years after Spirit, so she was still on the hamster wheel. 2003, 2006, 2008, 2009, 2010. Jeez, it's really pumping out there. 2011, she did 1, 2, 3, 4 albums in 4 years. And she's had her most recent album 2022. I follow her on Instagram, and she's seems like a happy person. To be honest, I don't really, beyond just kind of seeing her face when I'm scrolling through, I don't really take notice of what she's talking about. So, but um, but yeah, I think she she was a positive force in the mainstream musical landscape, and that if a young girl uh, gravitated towards her music as opposed to processed, you know, team song written pop music, then I don't think that's a bad thing. I think she could introduce people to a lot of good music in the vein of what she wrote, if you know what I mean. So yeah, Jewel, not bad, especially this one. All right, thank you for watching.